All right, so let's get started. I'd like to welcome everybody in our regular Zoom meeting from North Branford Planning and Zoning for Thursday, June 4th. In attendance are regular members, Mace and Galdenzi. Our first order of business is the meeting minutes from May 21st, which both Trish, you, Bill, and myself attended. So if you haven't had a chance, please review them now. If you did, if you want to make a motion to approve. Trish, you're on mute.
Oh, is that on me?
Oh,
Sorry, hold on.
Carrie muted you? Damn her.
Such an amateur at this.
You know exactly what you're doing, Carrie.
It is such power.
There you go.
I make a motion to approve the meeting minutes from May 21st, 2020.
Bill, can you second that? William. Carrie,
Am
I gonna have to unmute every time? This is really frustrating.
Well, why don't you?
Shouldn't have to.
Carrie, why don't we try it this way? Why don't we just unmute everybody and leave it that way? And
I did, because I had. Hold on.
Right.
Bill, did you mute yourself?
I'm being asked to unmute.
No, he's off mute. I can see him on the screen here.
Are you waiting for me? Sorry.
Yeah. Oh, yes. Yeah. We're waiting for you.
Apologize. I got a call from my security department. I had to take. Sorry.
Okay. Are you good now?
Made a motion.
Yes.
Okay.
I made a motion to approve the meeting minutes from May 21st, 2020. Patricia Mace made that motion. I keep forgetting we're on Zoom.
And Bill, can you second that?
I second that.
Okay. Any discussion?
No.
Trish, are you in favor of approval?
Yes.
Bill?
Yep, I approve.
And I do too. So I passed 3-0. The minutes are approved. Okay, so we are going to move on to next order of business is it's a continue of a public hearing application 2020-4, and this one is for One Forest Road. So Carrie, where we left off on this is the public hearing is still open. We will have folks that would like to speak. They would be able to do that. Where we left off, and Carrie's going to go through a process so we can try to make it kind of orderly. So she can lay that out in a second. And where we left off is that we did get some public comment that we turned over to the applicant, and they will respond. But first, Carrie, do you want to give kind of an idea how we should go about recognizing folks from the public?
Yes. So if you're logged into the Zoom meeting on your computer, and you can send me a chat, just if you'd like to speak, then I can just recognize you, and then the chairman will acknowledge you. If you just can state your name and address for the record, and then speak, that would be great. You can also just raise your hand, if you don't know how to use the chat feature. And then I think we have at least one person or maybe a few that are calling in, and we'll just try and address everyone's questions and, like Harry says, do it in an orderly fashion. But we'll start with kind of the video maybe first and try and use chat.
So there's nothing from our side, so I think what we'll do is we'll turn it over to the applicant because there was a number of comments and letters and notes that were sent to you. So if you want to take that and respond to those.
The only thing, sorry, Harry, to interrupt,
Yep.
the only addition I have that is dated June 2nd is a comment letter from the Regional Water Authority.
Okay.
So I'll just read that quickly. Dear Ms. Duquesne, regarding Forest Road zone change from R80 to I-1, the Regional Water Authority has reviewed the above referenced zone change proposal. The parcels are within the Farm River Public Water Supply watershed. The applicant is proposing to rezone 2 parcels of approximately 17 acres from R80 to I-2, which is actually I-1, which they referenced up above. The purpose of the application is to allow spoil material from the quarrying operation to be stored on the parcels. Based on the information submitted, we have the following comments. 1, the site plan does not delineate wetlands on the parcels. A certified wetland scientist should examine the property for wetlands. If wetlands are on the site, an application to the North Branford Inland Wetland Commission should be submitted. We recommend any wetlands should be well buffered from site disturbance. 2, erosion controls should be installed prior to any site work. Controls should be inspected weekly and after each rainfall. Additional controls should be stored on site for any necessary repairs. Materials stored on site for any length of time should be stabilized. Number 3, the RWA should be notified at least 3 days prior to any site work. We should be given access to the site for routine inspections. I can be reached at rwalters@rwater.com. Number 4, this property is on the watershed of the Farm River, which is diverted to Lake Saltonstall, a public water supply reservoir. As such, sections 8-3I and 22A-42F of the Connecticut General Statutes require that we be notified of this and any future applications concerning this property. Thank you for the opportunity. Sincerely, Ronald Walters.
All right, so now I will, would the applicant like to respond to the comments from the last meeting and some of the letters that were provided to you?
Yes.
Let me just go back. There's a number of folks that weren't part of the meeting last week because of some of the issues we had. So if you wouldn't mind, Carrie, can you put up the map, and can you just, Jim, could you just kind of give us, give us a walk us through exactly what's the application's for?
Sure.
So map is going to be difficult for me.
All right, if you get the little parcel, I mean, it doesn't have to be the whole map, but just if you can kind of show the parcel so for the folks on Zoom.
All right, bear with me.
Yeah, let me see if, because you had it up last week, so that's why I thought we could.
I know. I'm at town hall and I'm using the town's computer,
Okay.
but I can do it old school.
You know what? You can work on that, but Jim, go ahead. If you want to give us some of the overview, go ahead.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. We can.
Okay. Jim Preddy, Criscolo Engineering, representing Tilcon. Also on here with me is Christopher Costello from Tilcon. Yeah, so last week we discussed the project the project is at the north end of the quarry, which is actually a couple miles north of where the scale house is. There are 2 adjacent parcels immediately adjacent to the Tilcon property that were bought a number of years ago, one in the 80s, one in the 90s. They're looking to finally annex them onto the quarry property, the main property, so that it's all one property. There is no plans to mine in that area. They're looking to use that area to store some of the overburden material, not spoils from quarrying activity, but the overburden that actually the natural soils that actually currently sit on top of the rock. And that's basically the whole reason for the zone change in a nutshell is to basically assimilate those into the main property that Tilcon owns, the 700 acres.
I think I'm able to pull up the screen.
The reason why there were so many adjoiners notified is that there's a little tip of the existing property that actually extends past the zone for some reason. And you can see in the center of that map, it's a little triangular piece. The quarry property has always been that shape, to our knowledge. You know, the zoning map was created in the 70s. I'm not sure why exactly it cut off that little tip, but that triggered us to include the main property in this application, because it's was sort of kind of left hanging out there.
So Carrie,
that explains.
Carrie, can you just, so there's 4 pieces here. You have the one triangle that's on the bottom, the piece over to the left, right? That's got the little point at the top, and then you have those 2 parcels. Just so everybody knows out there that's watching tonight, what parcels are they looking to go from R40? Just so everybody knows, if you can just point them out. So that triangle.
This triangle,
Yep.
which is part of the larger parcel that Tilcon owns that's over 600 acres, that's known as 1 Forest Road. Then this parcel, which is currently wooded and currently zoned R80.
Okay.
And this parcel, which is also currently wooded and zoned R80.
And then what's that parcel to the left of it? That 4th parcel, it's got the, yeah, that part there.
This is owned by the town.
Okay, that's the town property. Perfect.
Yep.
Okay.
Just to go, so this information, just so everyone knows, is actually on the town website. That's where I received, that's where I pulled it up from. It's under agenda, under planning and zoning. This is a side angle view. I don't know that I can rotate this, unfortunately. But this is that little triangle that we were just talking about. As I said, it's part of this larger parcel that goes to the south. And then here are the other 2 parcels, just for some context. And then this is a close-up of the 2 parcels that they are asking.
Jim Preddy again. That's the A2 survey of those 2 parcels. They had never been mapped by a surveyor before. So that's why they had asked us to do that. Can you go back to the first page, Carrie?
Mm-hmm.
So Jim Preddy again, to answer your the question, you know, that Carrie kind of explained already, but the to the south is all the main Tilcon property, 1 Forest Road. To the east and the north of the whole subject area here is Regional Water Authority. To the west is that town of North Branford property that has that kind of trapezoidal shape there. And then, I don't know if you can see here, it's on the assessor's map, there's kind of also to the west, there's kind of a long, narrow piece all through there. Yeah, I believe that was supposed to be open space deeded when the Stairbrook subdivision happened, or one of the phases of Stairbrook.
Yeah.
So you know, that brings up one of the points that somebody had made about, you know, residential properties directly adjacent to these properties, and that's not true. There aren't any
Excuse me,
residential properties.
can you hear me? Can you hear me? This is Meg Graustein speaking.
Meg, please, please hold all your comments, and we will recognize it when the public hearing, or when we get to the public comment section.
It was a clarification on that land. I own that land.
Yeah, you can hold off on that. Yeah, please do. Go ahead, Jim.
You know, so the quarry has been here in operation for over 100 years. A good number of the vast majority, actually, of the properties that are around here were built somewhere between 55 and 90, and then there was some built since, but the lion's share was built during that time. A couple of the comments asked about, how is this going to change property values and property insurance? And I don't feel that it does, other than what's already existing. I mean, the quarry already exists. It existed before most of the houses. What was the effect on the property insurance and the values when the houses were bought or built? There was a question.
Jim, let me just, can you just, what is the use? Can you explain the use on this?
Yeah, again, the use for those properties is just to store some of the naturally occurring soil that sits above the rock that has to be mined on the southern, on the main piece. They're not planning on actually quarrying into those properties.
Harry, are we asking questions or are we holding off on questions?
No, we can, Bill.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
I figured. So Jim, I just wonder, so what has changed that they feel they need to extend beyond this? Is it just a matter of they're getting to the end of their occupied area of the quarry? It's really just an innocent question to understand.
Yeah, Jim Preddy again. It's basically and Chris could probably answer this better than me, but they're sort of running out of room for that material that sits on top of the rock at that end of the quarry. As you can imagine, there's, as you're moving north, it kind of has already been stockpiled in areas that they have. And so to finish the area that they have already gotten approved to be quarried, they need area to put the overburden.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you.
Otherwise, it means trucking it quite a few miles.
Understood. Yeah. Thank you.
There was a question about additional runoff. We're not creating any pavement, any roofs, anything. So we're not increasing any impervious surface ratio. We're not adding any runoff. Some of the runoff may change directions, but we can, we can obviously handle that on site with some stormwater storage areas. But the plan is, once the overburden gets piled, the piles would be seeded to prevent erosion. And obviously, to Ron Walter's question, we would need to come in with a site plan to kind of show where the stockpiles would be, how we're handling erosion controls, and that sort of thing. And obviously, the Carrie would be available or be allowed to, inspect the erosion controls before they do anything.
And on that site plan, you would have all the wetlands and everything identified, correct?
Well, yes, I think it would be required at this point.
Right. Yep.
And there were some questions about, blasting vibrations and water quality concerns. And I don't think it's germane to this particular application, but I think Chris could probably better answer those questions than I can.
Chris Costello from Tilcon. Well, we're not going to be blasting there anyway. It's only going to be used for stockpile, as Jim said. So there will be no issues with blasting vibrations. As far as water quality, all that water flows inward into the quarry, flows south, and then is pumped over in the south end and discharged through a permitted NIPD's discharge point, where we test the water weekly for nutrients, sediment, stuff like that, and quarterly for aquatic tox and metals. And we've never failed anything. We've never been above the limits, and we've never failed for aquatic toxicity.
That's a state of Connecticut permit. You want to mention?
It's a federal permit delegated to the state of Connecticut. Yeah.
Right. That's what I mean, just to clarify for everyone.
Yeah.
So, so that's the intent now. I mean, is the intention, since you own it, is to continue to quarry that eventually, or is it that's only going to be stockpile?
Only going to be for stockpile.
Okay. So you have no intention to further blast and quarry beyond that?
No.
Okay.
Jim, anything else?
No, I think, we kind of hit on all the points that were questions.
All right, so there are some people in our audience tonight. So if you would like to speak, let's start with those on video first. If you would like to speak, just put your, send it on the chat to Carrie, or you're gonna do it to everyone, and then.
Well,
Carrie,
I just changed the setting so that the participant can only chat with me.
Okay, perfect. All right, so
Should have done that from the beginning.
if you'd like to recognize, Carrie will recognize you, then your name and your address, and the comments should be specifically on the zone change.
Am I not seeing anyone? Or message. All right, man.
Hi. Can you hear me?
Yes.
I just wanted to clarify that land.
Just for the record, your name, full name, and address.
Meg Graustein and 7 Stairbrick Way, but I own 5 parcels of land, and the land directly to the west of the northern parcel that Tilcon is talking about, and to the west of the part owned by the town. I now currently own, there is a conservation easement on that, but that is directly owned by myself. So I just wanted to clarify that from the beginning, that my main concern is, I hear very clearly that your intention is only for the storage, but if things change in the future, is there anything preventing blasting from happening there? Or I guess my second question is, would it be possible, because the I-1 is specifically for the quarry, if it was zoned I-2 for just general industrial, would that cover and make it possible for them to do storage without opening it up for a potential zoning change that would then allow them to blast in the future? Is there a way to make it so there is a written clause that this would be used only for storage? I bought the house partially knowing that those 2 parcels were residential and nothing would be happening on them. So this change does affect part of why we bought this house and this property.
Jim, do you want us to get all the questions together first, or do you want to answer them one by one?
Jim Preddy, the I-2 question, I think I would ask Carrie to answer. I don't really know. I don't have the zoning book in front of me, but the conservation easement, that's possible. I said it looked like there was a open space deeded. I was looking at a phase 3, I think, subdivision map that said open space to be deeded. It could have ended up a conservation easement. That's quite possible. But as far as the change, I mean, none of us can predict the future. Someday none of us are here and Tilcon's still going, and they could possibly change what they're doing. But in the foreseeable future, there isn't any plans to, move north with the quarry face. So past what they're already approved for.
So
Okay, then I would ask the zoning committee.
Maybe I can help you or answer what the process would be. So if they're granted the I-2 to use storage, okay, they can do storage on there, but they have a 5-year plan. So if they decided that they wanted to do a 5-year, change the 5-year plan, let's say down the road they wanted to do some blasting. I saw a comment from somebody or in a letter or somewhere that says that, well, since it's a right, there's no oversight. Well, that's not entirely correct, and that there's no possibility of public comment, and that's also incorrect. Because if we have an item on our agenda that has a number of people, or there's a good reason to do it, we can change that to a public hearing. So it's just, in some cases, it's just a site plan approval. But if there's if the public is inquiring about it and there's concerns, we could change it from a site plan approval to a public hearing. So there are protections for things like that, even though it says it's acceptable in that area, but we can have a public hearing on that. If it ever did come to that, we could do that.
Okay, so I would love to just put to the zoning committee that I, if possible, would love it to, if there's a way to allow them to do storage that doesn't open it up for potential blasting down the future. And also to make sure that anyone with abutting properties would be notified, because from the last meeting, I heard you guys say that this was on June 4th, but I never got any information about the meeting. And because my property abuts the quarry, that concerns me that we weren't directly notified about this meeting. So going forward, I would appreciate if there is going to be a change with zoning pertaining to Tilcon, that, you know, if it goes past, if you approve it for I2, if they then request permission to blast, that we get notified.
Carrie, and as far as the notification, when they did the notification, I thought it was like all over town, all over the whole area.
Be 500 feet, right?
So the way that the statute reads is that at the beginning of an application for a map change, a zone change, all abutters within 500 feet of the parcel that's being requested to be changed is notified through mailing, certificate of mailing, which the applicant did. At the last meeting, the commission made the vote to continue the meeting, and that continuation, there's no additional mailing that goes out. It's just the announcement at that meeting that is the notification.
Mm-hmm.
And I know at the last meeting also, we had technical issues. So we had advertised on the agenda that it would be broadcast through Totucket TV's Facebook page. There was another meeting that was also being held that night that the Board of Ed had to use Totucket TV. So we posted on Totucket TV's Facebook page that the meeting would be on the town's Facebook page. I know, very messy, not ideal, but it was like a notification saying that the meeting was being changed and relocated to the town's Facebook page. Now, because I personally feel that process was not working very well, having comments throughout the presentation using Facebook Live, we've now invited the public into the Zoom meeting, which I hope is more effective because you're able to actually communicate directly with the applicant as opposed to just commenting throughout the presentation. But that's the process. So we've met the requirements. I'm happy to keep you updated, personally, if you want to reach out to me with questions, but it's not required by the applicant to notify the abutters. The agendas are posted on the town's website with the login information for Zoom.
Thanks, Carrie. Carrie, is there anybody else would like to speak?
Yes, Ashley Joyner.
Okay.
No, I did it.
Oh, okay.
There you go, Ashley.
Hi, guys. Carrie, do you
just for the record.
Oh, sorry, Ashley Joyner. Ashley Joyner, Jackson Lane, Northford. My back parcel of land borders the last speakers. So I am just on the other side of their property. Actually, mine parallels theirs. So I am just down the hill from where this application is. So I had a couple of questions. Carrie, do you yet have a wetlands map of this area?
No. We have our GIS wetlands information, but not a wetlands flagged map for the parcel.
So the applicant would still have to get that done before this approval. So are you going to then be sending this to wetlands before this gets decided in P&Z?
For a zone change, we have not required a wetlands flagging.
Okay, so it's only for what?
Actually, where would we do the wetlands and everything would be is at the site plan stage. So like, let's say they come, if this was approved and they want to do their storage, they would come in with a site plan, show us where everything's going to be. Wetlands would be documented. I would assume that that when there's an application, it goes through all the all the town commissions and departments for review. And and Carrie, correct me if I'm wrong, but I would assume that would be wetlands as well.
Yes.
Yeah. So that would be that'd be at the site plan part of the process.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Okay, can I address the Tilcon person, Christopher? You had said that the water quality was not a concern because the runoff and the water would be pumped to the south, which is then collected and diverted to your other runoff, which goes down to Cedar Lake. And we know that there's a problem right now with Cedar Lake. So how much of an impact will this runoff now affect the Cedar Lake if you are diverting down to your storage instead of allowing the natural runoff to continue into the Farm River? So now it's going into the Branford River watershed instead of the Farm River watershed.
Chris Costello, Tilcon. Actually, if you look at the map, the contours, most of that water flows back inside the quarry, then flows south and pumped over. So there's not really going to be a big difference in water discharge.
Okay, and what about water quality if you're storing all of the material there?
Well, it's virgin soil. There's no issue with water quality.
Except for the runoff off of the material that you're storing.
Right, but it'll be vegetated.
So you're not storing gravel type, you're storing...
No, it's overburden. It's just virgin soil. We have it stockpiled all around the edges of the quarry. We keep it for restoration when end of quarry life.
Okay, can I go back to the quarry then too? In your quarry 5-year plan, right now in Tilcon's 5-year plan, is the quarry included in the 5-year plan?
Yeah.
So then if this land is incorporated into the overall land, then quarry would be included in this parcel as well.
I'm not sure what you're asking me.
I'm asking for a guarantee that you're not going to quarry this parcel that is being incorporated. But if it's in your 5-year plan...
We've said that we're not going to quarry this property. It's only for stockpiling.
Right, that's your intention now, but that's not a guarantee because this is in your 5-year plan.
No, Ashley, there's no quarrying on the property that we're talking about in the 5-year plan. They would have.
I think what Harry was mentioning, if they have a 5-year plan, so they come and present their 5-year plan. So if they ever, it sounds like they don't, but if they did intend to use this, they'd have to come to us and say, hey, in our 5-year plan, we now want to use this. So it would come before the Planning and Zoning Commission.
Yeah, and also, Ashley, at that time, if there is, if there's concern from the public, we could turn that into a public hearing as well.
Okay, would that public hearing be the entire town, or would that just be the land abutters like it's been now, and that's why this has been so small?
Well, we follow the statutes. So, and I'm not sure, Carrie, if I think with everybody within 500 feet. I'm sure if people want to get the word out at that time, there's plenty of ways to do it. But we just follow the statutes that we have as far as notifications.
Okay, but like in other things, like when it comes to like town council and stuff like that, or even inland wetlands, or sometimes P&Z, if there's a big enough project, like the gas propane tanks that were coming into town, it was not just land abutters that were notified, it was the entire town. Wouldn't this qualify?
We didn't do that. Planning and zoning didn't notify.
Yeah,
No, but inland wetlands did.
Well, I mean, that's maybe their process, but I'm just saying, we go by our statutes and notifications.
Yeah, it's 500 feet.
And we, that's where we end up. So, and then the word gets out from there. Not to sidetrack this and get off of this, but when there was a public hearing for the propane, we notified the folks within 500 feet, I think it was. And that was for the site plan with public hearing. As far as the public hearing for the change of text, that was out, that there was no notification, but there was, that was sent through the newspapers and, but the actual site plans go to those within 500 feet.
Okay, can I just have a quick, sorry, Carrie, were you going to say something?
I was just going to say that I'm not sure how many people were notified for this meeting, but it was actually more than just the abutters that would be notified for, yeah, what's the number there, Jim? 135 people were notified. So just to put this out there, one thing that I think everyone's kind of talking about is the option of doing a special use permit just for stockpiling on those 2 interior parcels. If the applicant goes that route, the notification would be much less than 135 people. The reason why the number was so high this time is because the other triangular portion that they're looking to rezone is part of that larger 600-acre parcel of 1 Forest Road. So I just wanted to clarify that.
I got that. And I saw the 135 that were sent out originally, which was last month. But because we're in this pandemic and this is a special situation, what Meg was saying earlier, that she didn't know even how to log on to this, was she's a direct land abutter to the actual end of where this land is going. And she didn't even know how to log on to this. And I had to get the information for her going about it. So I think that even though it was technically published somewhere and you don't have to publish it again because it's a continuation, I think because we're in a special situation, and like last meeting, all we could do was do the chats on the side, and that's not a true public hearing, that this has been not the best process. And I think that it's unfair to say.
That's why that's why we didn't take any action last week. And that's why we decided to continue or 2 weeks ago. And that's why we continued it over to this meeting, so everybody could get informed. There was a lot of questions. There was a lot of things on social media. There was a lot of posting out there. So as you mentioned, under the circumstances, this is how town council and other commissions and boards are running. We have a number of people here that have joined. A number of people sent letters in knowing that they may not be able to join whether by phone or by Zoom. They sent those comments in to Carrie. We've read through them. We passed them over. So as you mentioned, yes, it's a little bit tough, but that's, under the circumstances. But we are getting the information, the comments from the public, and people are joining here tonight because they found out. So we're not. If you're asking us to stop the process,
I'm not asking you to stop the process.
All right. So we are. But we've done everything that we could do as far as trying to get the information out there as best we can. Again, 2 weeks ago we held up because we knew there was an issue between Facebook, and Carrie did an excellent job of pulling this together to make sure everybody was on Zoom and attending on this instead of by phone or whatever it might be. So I think we've done a very good job of continuing our business, our town business, under the circumstances that we have. So is there any more? Does anybody
I just have one more. Gary, I have one more.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Do you have any other questions?
I have a question, but yep. Go ahead, Ashley.
I just have one more. It's not a question. Well, it is. I am asking this commission to turn this application down and allow the applicants to apply for a special permit use in an R80 zone instead of changing it to I2 or I1 because of the history of Tilcon and this community. And I can go into a long rambling
We don't want to, yeah.
soliloquy on the history of Tilcott and them going back on their intentions and fighting it at the state level to overturn local decisions.
Ashley, this is about a zone change.
I know, and that's why I'm asking for this commission to turn it down.
I know, that's fine. That's perfect.
But you have to know the history of reasons why we want it turned down, and that's why.
Would anybody else?
Can I speak?
Sure, Bill, please.
Commissioner Galdenzi. Chris Costello, can you do me a big favor, and can you just describe to me what overburden is? Because I heard you mention something earlier. So maybe it would help. It would help me, certainly, maybe everyone else, if you describe what this is that we're talking about, please.
It simply is the layer of dirt and organic material over the stone. And we have to remove that to mine. So we stockpile it in the quarry or on the outskirts of the quarry because we keep it for end of quarry life to restore. It's just a layer of dirt and vegetation.
Hi, it's Commissioner Mace that has a question. Just to clarify understanding, as both you and Jim mentioned, Chris, like if down the road something with this property were to change, I remember when we looked at the 5-year plan, I'm quite ignorant when it comes to like how the quarrying process works, but in my mind it works where you guys just kind of naturally travel north in the length of the quarry. And when we looked at something a few months ago, there's still like 75 years left of quarrying. So if you were to ever change the use of that land in the future, would it be at like the 50, 75 year mark? Because you guys travel north as you mine?
We have no intentions to mine there.
Okay.
Okay.
Jim Preddy, Tricia, I don't know if you could recall that map, that 5-year mining plan that got approved a year or so ago. There was actually different faces of the quarry as you go through that whole banana-shaped property. They weren't all just at the north end. There's various depths and faces. So they have a like you said, 50 to 75 years of quarrying before they go past where they've already been approved to mine to.
Yeah, my intention in asking that question is just, again, me being ignorant. There's a lot of fear that something can change in, a couple of years. But like you mentioned, Jim, by the time something changes all the way that far north, like we could all be long gone and there could be new commissioners and new everything. So I was just trying to, for the public, get an idea of like just the extent of time it could take for a change to even happen. It's not something that is not going to happen immediately, even within like 10 years.
No.
That was a good question, mate.
Jim Preddy again. Carrie, just, Ashley brought up something before, and I just kind of making sure. I mean, everything that we've done and you've done here follows the Executive Order 7B, correct? That we're supposed to be operating under?
Yes, well, that's the other thing, is that we've gone above and beyond what the governor has issued for the executive order. So the executive order doesn't even require for a butter notification. It allows applicants to email people or just post a sign on the property, but that was not what the applicant chose to do. And I also didn't feel comfortable with just posting a sign. They needed to do more. And as much as they could do, even given COVID, which they've done. The other component was that because if sign companies were closed down, the governor excused the posting of a sign, but that, again, the applicant posted the sign. And they didn't post it, well, it included the one forest road, so that's where it was posted in visible, distance for the public to see. If they had posted it only on those interior lots that are landlocked, that would be obviously pointless, but they've complied with the regulations. So next on the list I have is Donna. Let me just make sure. Hopefully you can unmute yourself, Donna.
I think I got it. Can you hear me?
We can hear you.
Okay. I just, you know, I just want to check.
Just for the record, your name and your full name and address?
Sure. Donna Andreevsky, and I am a neighbor of Meg's and Ashley's.
Thank you.
So I just have the same question that Ashley had is why do we have to make a zoning change? Why can't we just, you know, allow some special permit? Is there something that we can do to say, okay, it's okay to stockpile, but that's it?
I don't know if the applicant wants to address that question.
Well,
Yeah.
just Jim Preddy, Kerry, correct me if I'm wrong, but for them to be able to join those properties to the main property, don't they all have to be the same zone?
They don't have to be the same zone. If you, so one, I recall, and correct me if I'm wrong, Jim, but one of the discussions was that triangular piece that is zoned R80 and is part of One Forest Road. The zoning doesn't follow property lines. So that was one component of this, is to clean that up so that that area could be quarried. I'm not sure of the exact acreage of that triangle, but that was one component. And then there's the 7-acre and the 10-acre parcels that they can't just stockpile material on there when it's zoned R80. So to have them all be part of the I-1 zone was the request. There is the possibility of the special use permit for those two parcels and those to enable those activities of stockpiling. But that would also be obviously a public hearing and special use permit.
Well, that's my question, is can we entertain that?
I mean, I'll leave that up to the applicant. I mean, your application's for the change to I-1, so is that something you would consider?
Yeah, Chris Costello, Tilcon, we would entertain a special permit. We'd like to resolve that triangle, though.
Okay.
Just to clarify for the public, that would obviously be a separate application. That wouldn't be acted on this evening. It would have to be a separate application for a special use permit for the stockpiling of material, which would also look different. So then we would have to know, where are the wetlands? Where are you looking to stockpile? What's the topography? There would be different information that would be requested.
So Carrie, so let me get this. So what we could do, and being that the applicant just said that considered a special use permit, which would be beneficial, but can you put up the map? Because what still would be in play for the I-1 would be that triangular piece. So I just want to make sure everybody that's viewing it
Yep.
fully
So
understands.
I also just want to mention there still are people that have comments. So
Yeah.
hold on.
Okay. So what is a possibility is that bottom triangle that's R40.
80.
That would become I-1, and then the two properties right behind it, the two designated areas behind it, would be the ones that would be a special would be under a special use permit, correct?
Yes, that's one option.
Okay.
Carrie, and it's Commissioner Mace. You also have the map that shows the that in my civilian brain, the colors, because for the public to see why they would request that triangle, it's because I don't want to misspeak, but the one with the colors kind of shows why they're requesting that triangle.
It's just the zoning map. Yep.
There we go. Sorry.
Yeah, no, that's a good question. No,
You can see how my brain works. I need colors,
it's working well.
shapes and colors, like a 4-year-old.
I'm colorblind, so I'm out.
Okay, sorry.
It's okay.
Carrie, we're putting your skills to the test so you become super proficient.
I know. I'm just gonna keep requesting Zoom webinar. I'm just gonna keep plugging away.
There you
Request
go.
that we get Zoom webinar. Might make this easier, but I don't know. All right, so just for some context, so the red outline is, oh, I think I just did something bad. The parcel that Tilcon owns, the largest parcel that Tilcon owns. It's 695 acres, has an address of 1 Forest Road. It's zoned I-1. When you zoom in to this northernmost portion of the parcel, residential areas to the west are Grant Drive and Miller Road. There's a portion of the parcel, and this is where, see if I can do this. You can see the triangle in the orangish color, darker shading, is zoned R-80, which is residential, 80,000 square foot minimum. And the area to the south is zoned industrial. If you take a measurement of the area of that triangle, it's approximately 81,353 square feet. So about 2 acres.
And that's already within their, technically, it's in their I-1 zone, but however the map was created,
Right.
that part cut off. Again,
It's in the parcel.
it's in
Yeah.
the parcel.
It's not in the zone. If we look at an aerial map,
My bad, yes, correct. It's in their parcel.
Okay, perfect. Thanks, Carrie.
Thank you. That was super helpful.
All right,
it
Carrie,
just gives you some context.
is somebody else, who's up next, Carrie?
So, Donna, I don't know if you had any other questions? No? Okay. Next, we have Kelly Dolan. Kelly, would you still like to speak? Okay, maybe we can come back to Kelly. We have someone that has a label starting with S. I don't see their. Go to Gina Rivezi. Would you like to speak? Let me make sure people are unmuted.
Sure, it's fine.
Okay.
Hi. I just had I had a couple of questions.
Gina, excuse me, you full name and
Oh,
address,
Gina
please?
Rivezi.
Yeah.
77 Cedar Lake Road, North Branford.
Thanks, Gina.
You're welcome. So, as you guys know, because we've been around, well, I don't know if I've seen you guys, but he mentioned number one that if it created water, they had a diversion for it. And right now, yeah, they do have a diversion, but they also have a leak up top, and that hasn't been rectified. And although they've moved the water, and I really did appreciate that, the pond isn't draining, so it can't handle any more water. And, you know, moving forward, there's really been no movement on it for 2 years. So I wanted to be sure there wasn't going to be additional water. Chris, as you mentioned, it goes from the North Quarry to the South Quarry, which comes down here. So that's my first question. My second question is actually a zoning question, and it's for the people up north. Is there a setback from an I-1 zone to an R80 zone for blasting? Like, what's the setback, you know, from the two different zones that they would have to stay at?
I believe it's 50 feet.
So they could blast 50 feet in the I-1 zone from an R80
I
property?
think it's disturbance. I don't know if it's blasting. I mean, that,
Well, blasting is allowed in I-1 zone. It's not allowed in an I-2 zone. So that was my question for all those people that are so close. I mean, we've kind of gone through it down here years ago when I was a kid. You guys are talking about years. And, you know, I've been here almost 56 years. My family's been here since 1898. So when we kind of look at the future, we have to look at the future of our children, our grandchildren, great-grandchildren, because people tend not to move from this town. You know, so I would kind of like an answer, because if it's, you know, they're 50 feet from that next person, if in time they decide to blast, you know, how does that work if it's only a 50-foot setback? I mean, we have what, 100-foot setback for wetlands?
Yeah, I believe it's more for blasting coring operations.
Right, but if you're saying only 50 feet, that's not much,
No.
if that's what Carrie said. I mean, it's not much for the property owners that are close.
Yeah,
If it's only
Gina, are you
50
saying
feet.
50 feet from your property? Or are you talking about 50 feet
No,
on your
I'm
property?
asking about the parcel that you're speaking of. That's up in Northford.
Right,
So if that becomes I-1, then blasting is allowed in I-1. I'm sure they'd have to get a permit.
right.
But what my question is what is the setback for blasting, or for that, the setback from an I-1 to an R80 zone? Because I know Meg had spoken and she said that she's very close. I think she has Mrs. Regan's house that has that beautiful view of the waterfall.
Yeah, I think last week or a couple weeks ago, I don't know, Jim or Carrie, do you remember how many, how far away was it from the nearest property owner? I think it was, was it over a quarter mile?
Oh, I don't
don't think so.
To that property, I don't think it's.
I think
the little narrow piece is right adjacent.
Okay.
For me, I think we've heard from a zoning commissioner standpoint, we heard that they're not intending to do this, but we want to make sure we have some way to get, to get communicated if there's going to be a zone change. So we talked about this 5-year plan. So I think, Gina, to answer your question, I think the intent, we're hearing from the applicant at least, the intent is not to do that. So that, I know that's to you is probably meaningless, but
right.
What we do is, so the zoning commission is hearing from you guys to say, okay, we just need to make sure we put some boundaries in there to make sure that any change in that intent, that it comes before us. And I think Harry's talked about some options for that. So
okay,
we definitely have heard that. So no, I totally appreciate that.
Yep.
Okay, so but the setback is only 50 feet from I-1 to R80?
I think anything that comes before us, we'll have to evaluate that. And I think it's clearly a farm. The fire marshal gets involved, insurance companies get involved. So it's not just, it's not just us either when zoning,
right.
When blasting occurs.
Right. Well, my question is, even if they're blasting up above, you know what I mean? Or closer up, because I know their plan was to expand north. Would they be able to go west, like closer to those properties, which would cause the blast to be closer to these people
Well,
that are on those roads. That's why I'm
Right.
asking if there's a
Understood.
setback from the area.
Yeah. No, I understand. What I'm saying is they're telling us tonight that the intention of this parcel is not to blast at all. It's for overburden. So, they're saying that clearly, but
yeah.
we're hearing that, okay, we need to make sure that we have something, some mechanism in place that it comes before us before that. If they ever want to change that we know about that. And I think Harry's talked about some options. We'll make sure we consider for sure.
Okay, thank you.
So Gina, just to also address it more clearly. So the regulations, I'm just looking at them just to confirm. It's a 50-foot greenway that has to be between I-1 and a residential district. And then the setback, I'm just looking at this, from a residence district boundary line is 125 feet.
Okay, so if they came back before, technically, they could ask to blast within 125 feet of the residential property line. That's what do I have that correct?
Yeah, that's a minimum, that's the minimum setback, and they would have to maintain a 50-foot wide greenway between the edge of their property line and the area of disturbance.
Okay, thank you.
Harry, do we have somebody else?
Yes. Kelly, I believe, is back.
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Oh, thank you. Kelly Dolan, 88 Mill Road, but I'm calling in on behalf of my parents who are at 44 Jackson Lane. They're neighbors of Donna and Ashley as well, so very close to the property that's being discussed. I think everyone's concern is probably less about the storage, but more around the zoning change specifically. So I think even if it's just a gesture of good faith on behalf of Tilcon, everyone would greatly appreciate exploring some of those alternatives, maybe the special use permit specifically, while maintaining the zoning, which will definitely assuage everyone's fears. Because, even though the gentlemen that are here now and the people working at Tilcon now have no intentions of blasting in the immediate future or even the distant future, we know retirements come, people change jobs, plans change. So any protections that could be put in place for the residents would be greatly appreciated.
Thank you.
Did Ron Sienna join the meeting?
I see a Ron. I don't know if it's Ron Sienna.
All right. Carrie, somebody else like to speak? Do we have anybody else?
Yes, we have Joe. Let me just make sure that you're unmuted here, Joe.
You hear me?
Yes.
Hi, my name is Joe Salemi, 29 Glen Road. So Kelly actually said it pretty eloquently. I'm not so much concerned as to the primary usage of the permitting, but it's more the side effect. So I'm just concerned with that spill off into Cedar Lake. So I'm a deeded member of the Lake Association, and there seems to be a lot of issues. I hear all the time about how there's no drainage, and I'm kind of more curious as to if I'm deeded to this property, and we've noticed how the water levels have gone up so much that the dock no longer comes to the beach anymore. Is there something, or would Tilcon be responsible or help fix the areas that make it so that way there's no drainage? I heard it used to connect to Lindsay Lake and then maybe the Branford supply pond, and it's no longer doing that. So if they're able to dump water and increase the water levels, what is being done about trying to make it so that way the ecosystem is being maintained?
Chris, I'm going to let you handle that one.
Chris Costello, Tilcon. There's not going to be any additional water pumping. We're not going to mine this property, so there is no more water. I don't know what the water issue keeps coming up.
It was said earlier in the meeting that there'd be some spillage diverted, but then also to some of the other areas. And I know that because it's currently already going there because of something that was already put in place a while ago, I'm just learning about. I was just wondering, do you maintain your spill off properties?
Do we maintain? I don't know what you're asking me. We divert the water in the quarry flows south. We divert it, we pump it over where the Great Hill Tunnel is. It goes into the south end of the quarry. Then there's a permitted discharge at one location in the quarry, and that's the water that goes to Cedar Pond. We don't plan on adding water to that because we're not going to be mining that property.
Yeah, so Jim Preddy, again, if there were, what we had said before was that, we're not adding any impervious surface to those northern properties, so we're not increasing any of the runoff that currently runs off that property into the quarry now.
So I guess in order to get an answer to my question, I'd have to go back towards what initially led to Cedar Lake being a pump off area.
Yeah, well,
that's been going on for a long time. It's long before my time.
All right, thanks.
Carrie, does somebody else like to speak?
I had some other phones that don't have names.
You want to just give out the phone number and then let them unmute and speak or comment?
I don't even see this person. It was 7BJFJE is the name.
Oh, I swear. Yeah, they were just there a minute ago. Anybody else? You see anybody else?
Sure, I'm just double checking. I just want to make sure there's no hands.
Wasn't that one that you just read off the password?
I know. It was the username too. That's
yeah.
funny.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I saw it up there. So yeah.
So crack the code.
Yeah.
So.
Oh, I see. Yeah. Go ahead.
Chairman Jim Preddy again. And Chris, stop me if I misspeak here, but it sounds like, if you folks are willing to, let us clean up what, appears to be an error at that little triangle on the north end of the quarry to follow the property line, which I think was the original intent, that we'd be willing to leave those two properties R80 and you do a special use permit to be able to just stockpile material there because we don't have any intentions to mine there. So at this point, given the concerns of everybody, we could, I believe, Chris, tell me if I'm wrong, that we'd be willing to head that direction.
Yep, no, I agree.
All right, so let me just, so basically that first triangle piece, to rezone.
That's actually the property line.
Okay, yep.
So I don't know why, and I'm assuming that when the zoning maps were created, they kind of followed the assessor's maps, and the assessors were doing the best they can with whatever information was available at the time. And again, nobody had really surveyed that north end before, so it's not surprising that there's an error in the map.
So Bill, what are any thoughts on that? Bill and Trish?
Sorry, I do have someone who has their hand raised.
Yep.
All right, please.
Okay.
Go ahead. John and Laura.
Yes, I'm just wondering.
Oh, excuse me. Is it, Laura, just your name, full name and address, please?
Oh, Laura Dotson, 21 Glen Road.
Perfect. Thank you.
Thanks. I'm just wondering, I know they're dumping all of this extra debris in this property, but what they're dumping there, where is that coming from? I'm also a deeded member of Cedar Lake, and I'm wondering if the more digging they're doing, what they're dumping, is that runoff from what they're dumping there going into Cedar Lake? What else are they digging? Where is this? What is it that they're dumping there?
Chris, go ahead. Chris Costello,
Again,
Tilcon.
the Jim Preddy, Criscola Engineering, the material that's being stockpiled there is the existing virgin soil from the area that they already have permits to quarry. So it's just the natural dirt that's above the rock because they can't quarry the dirt with the rock. So the soil has to be removed and put someplace, and they stockpile it so that when they close portions of the quarry, that this material will be used to fill back in.
Okay, so what they're putting there is continuous digging from the quarry that's already allowed to be quarried.
It's the virgin ground above the rock that has not been yet touched.
Okay, and how does that affect Cedar Lake?
I don't believe that it does.
Okay, so there's no effect on Cedar Lake for this.
Not from this material, no.
Okay, and there's no future effect on Cedar Lake for this?
That I can't answer. I don't.
Okay, we need an answer for that. We need to know how this will affect our lake in the future.
Chris Costello from Tilcon. This is, again, it's just virgin material that we take off the top of the rock that we're already permitted to mine. It will have no impact on Cedar Lake.
Now or in the future?
No, we're not going to mine that property
Okay, how do we know that property is not going to be mined?
because we're going to get a special permit that allows us to stockpile there, and then that protects you from mining.
Right.
Okay, so this will, what we're talking about here will not allow additional mining in that area.
So let me answer that. So originally what the application for was to change it all to I2 zone, which would allow for mining on all those particular parcels being put together. So what's been talked about now is that there's one triangular piece of property that Tilcon would like to consider to be changed to I2. The other two parcels behind it, correct?
I1. It's about.
I'm sorry. Oh yeah, right. I1.
It's about 82,000, so it's about 2 acres.
About
2 acres.
Become I1 zone, and the other two, they would request a special permit that would allow for them to take the virgin soil or topsoil to bring it on those properties, and then I think you also mentioned seeding it as well. So that's what the use is for.
Yeah. So the two big, rectangular pieces are going to be retained as R80, but go under special use to allow for stockpiling of overburden, which is basically the soil scraped off to allow for them to get to the rock. That little sliver of triangular will remain. They're looking to make that I1.
Correct. That's already part of their main property anyway, so.
Okay, is there any way to put any stipulation in there where no blasting can be done or no digging can be done?
Well, they wouldn't be able to do it.
They would not. It's R80.
It's going to be R80.
It will remain, those two large rectangular pieces will remain residential R80 zones.
Okay.
And there's no blasting or mining allowed in R80s.
Okay.
Well, we would have to, just to clarify, because there is blasting that occurs in a residential zone, like for building purposes, but it wouldn't be allowed to be quarried. And a special use application would state the parameters of their approval, which would, again, just to repeat, would be a separate application if they are now looking to do a special use application for the two parcels as opposed to a zone change.
Right, so that would open the doors for another application where they possibly could blast in the future. No. Okay.
So what would happen is if it's left at R80, they would request a special permit only to take the topsoil that is pulled out that's on the Tilcon property now, and able to move it down to that R80 zone. That requires a special use permit. And under that special use permits, there is no blasting allowed, or I want to say that, no mining allowed on that R80 property.
Okay, but
If they
changing
ever
that
wanted
zoning,
to, if they ever wanted to mine that, they would have to go through the process that we have right now. They would have to ask for a zone change. That would go out to all the abutters of the property, and we would be having the same conversation if that's what they want to do. But that is not their intention. So what they're looking to do is just do that one piece of property about, as Bill mentioned, around 2 acres. That's I-2 to complete the property, and then do a special permit for the other 2 portions of the R80.
Yeah, I think what Carrie was clarifying was if you buy a residential zone and say it's a 2.5 acre lot, and if you need to, I said that you can't blast, but if you have to blast to put a septic system, you still can blast an R80 zone to put a septic in. What Carrie's clarifying is they can't mine it.
right? No, but they can blast it.
No,
Well, they can't. I'm just saying that she was clarifying because I said you cannot.
Is a mining operation, they are not allowed to blast on it for a mining operation.
Okay.
All right, thank you. Carrie, do you have anybody else like to speak?
Yes, person with Moto G.
Hi. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Lori Vogt, 409 Sea Hull Road, with property that abuts the drainage that goes down to Cedar Lake. I lost power on my phone for a while, so I lost a little bit in the middle, so I'm not sure that I understand that they're now not going to ask for the zone change to I-1 for the 2 parcels, and instead will go for special use permit. Is that correct?
Carrie, do you want to put that back up? So there's actually 3 parcels.
Okay, I just want to go on record. I saw the map before.
Okay.
I think, as with Ashley Joyner, that you should deny this application. I think that the history of Tilcon and history with most corporations is that they don't care about the people that surround them or the towns that they're in. They care about making money. If they have not enough room to stockpile their dirt, my suggestion is they can sell it and they can buy it back later on when they need to fill in something 50 years from now. Stockpiling it on those 2 properties, and I understand Carrie said they're currently wooded, would probably mean clear cutting all those trees and putting piles of dirt that are supposed to be seeded, which really doesn't conform well with what North Branford is supposed to look like. Basically, industries are sneaky and they will get away with whatever they want to get away with, and changing the zone is just an easy shoe-in to change their minds later. I think we shouldn't do it, and that's my opinion. That's all I need to say.
Thank you. Carrie, okay. Do we have anybody else?
Not that I can.
Right, actually.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yes, that's just funny.
Hello, the person speaking. Would you like to comment on this application? It's we have your phone number here, 203-671.
Hi, Carrie. It's Pam Johnson from The Sound. I'm sorry I didn't have my mute on.
Oh, that's okay. Just wanted to make sure we got everyone.
Okay, appreciate it.
Perfect.
I don't see.
Okay.
Don't see anyone else.
So, Bill, do you have anything else? Any other questions? Trish?
I don't have any other questions.
I do not.
All right. So let me ask you a question, Carrie. So, the applicant mentioned that one of the some of the concerns from the public are the actual blasting, potential mining down the road, even though that Tilcon has said that that's not their intention. But one option of that one property or that one parcel to change that to I2.
I1.
I'm sorry. Why do I keep on saying I?
I know. That's okay.
I don't know why. Was that on the agenda like that?
It was.
That's right.
Original.
Okay.
Or-
That's what I
yeah.
keep on seeing. All right. So would we be able to use this application, modify it just to allow for an approval for that one piece of property that's approximately 80,000 square feet?
Yes.
Okay. And then if that's the direction the commission would go, then we could change it to that one parcel, and then the other part of it, the R80 portion would have to be a separate special use, correct?
That would be up to them, right? Yes.
Well, yeah. Okay. So
Yeah, we'd be willing to go that route.
okay. So Bill and Trish, since we've gone through the public comment section, and Jim, I don't know if there's anything, or Chris, if there's anything you want to add. Are you good?
I'm good.
Okay.
So can I just, sorry, I just want to clarify something to make sure that the applicant and the applicant and the representative are okay with the wording of what you're talking about. So it would be to change the zoning of the northernmost portion of the parcel located at 1 Forest Road from residential R80 to industrial I-1 zone. And then a description of the meets and bounds of the parcel would be attached to the approval.
I'm okay with that. That sounds good.
Okay.
All right. So Bill or Trish, if there's nothing else that we need to ask the applicant, we've taken public comment. Are you comfortable with closing the public hearing this time?
Yes.
Can I clarify one thing?
Absolutely.
The RWA mentioned the issue of inland wetlands and an inland wetlands map and stuff. Is that only for the larger piece? Carrie, does that apply to this sliver of?
The wetlands shown on the GIS map, which is not current, shows wetlands on the 2 parcels that they were looking to rezone, not the triangular piece.
Okay. So our RWA comment was more related to that, to the triangular pieces.
Right. It talked about the 17 acres from R80 to I1. Yeah, I don't know. Ron, if you have any specific comments, I see that you're on the meeting. I can.
No, the inland wetlands comment was related to the two parcels that we're going to get the zone changed. And I'm talking to you that if they did go ahead with any filling or clear cutting there, that they would have to go through inland wetlands. But right now, the application is just for the zone change. This application doesn't have them doing anything. There's really no site plan. So I was kind of bringing that up just to say, hey, if they do start moving in there, they got to go back and.
Gotcha. Okay.
Additional permits.
Thanks, Ron.
Thank you, Ron. So I have no further comments then.
Trish?
None.
Okay. So can one of you make a motion to close the public hearing?
Hold on, let me get the actual numbers for it up. All right, I make a motion to close the public hearing for application 2020-4, map amendment to amend North Branford zoning map at 1 Forest Road.
Is there a second?
Yeah, I second that.
Okay, any discussion? Seeing none. Trish, do you approve?
Yes.
Bill?
I approve. Bill
And I approve as well. So.
Sorry. Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, public hearing is closed. Okay. So we may take action on that later tonight under new business. In the meantime, we have
Well,
another,
Sorry, it's actually, I have it all listed under public hearing and possible action.
okay, I'm just gonna pull up my, let me just pull it up here, 1 second.
Because we combined those.
Yeah,
Yeah,
right.
that's right. We changed that, right?
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah, that's good.
Oh, so we, go ahead, Carrie.
Just one thing just to note, just procedurally, so with a zone change application, you do need to state the effective date of that zone change, which June 19th, 2020 would be appropriate, because that would be after a notice would be published in the newspaper. And then there also need to be reasons stated for any approval
Okay.
or denial for that matter. But
What's June 19th? How do we get to June 19th?
that is
It's
it's after
14
the
days is 18.
approval is published in the newspaper and we use the sound, and they
Okay,
publish
so
on
it's
Thursday.
Thursday. Okay, understood. Yep.
So that would be the following day. It would be the Friday.
Gotcha. Thank you.
So Carrie, we should continue with this application, or do we want to move on? Do we want to step over to B very quickly? Because there were some open things left on it, or how do you think we should go forward on this?
I would recommend just make either having discussion about this. I would stick with this application.
Okay, all right. So, seated for, let's consider, let's call this, because the way we changed it. So for seated for the discussion, our regular members, Mason Galdenzi. So, comments, directions?
I need a
Trish?
clarification. Are we now discussing just that triangle, or are we discussing the triangle and the two parcels?
It's all whatever you want to talk about. How, so it starts with all three parcels being rezoned to I2. So that's what the original application's for. We can modify it to where
that helps me.
Where the applicant's actually looking at the triangle, so we can go either direction.
I got you.
So I'm hearing obviously from public comment and even from the applicant. So the triangular piece we rezoned to I1, right? But the what's that?
The meeting.
Hello?
We need to mute somebody.
But the two triangular or the two rectangular pieces is a special use.
Right.
So it restricts, no blasting. It's just overburdened use, which seems reasonable.
Right.
That's what I heard, and that's kind of what I'm comfortable with.
So I agree.
Bill and Trish, there's three options. One, we approve it as the application was, and Bill has just mentioned all three pieces. Second one, where the applicant is in agreement and gives some protection, would be just that triangular piece, or we deny the application in its entirety. Right.
Yeah, good point. Yep, thank you.
So, your thoughts?
Yeah, I think the public is very concerned about the water, which has been addressed, and then super concerned about the blasting, which, based on the suggestion and the agreement from the applicant to keep those R80, seems to really support those concerns. And with the applicant's offering of that problem solving and that compromise, that seems the best direction to go in.
Agreed.
Bill?
Yeah, I agree.
Okay. So I'm in agreement as well. So, Carrie, do you have a potential motion?
I do. Because I'm on the town computer, I can't share the screen with it on it, but
Can you email it to us?
Can you email it to Tricia? Can you email it? Well, can you email it to all three of us?
Or text a picture of it, email it?
Yeah, text a picture, texting a picture would work good.
So I'm gonna state it. I think that's a better way to go. I think we should do it verbally.
Oh, that's a good idea.
So it is Planning and Zoning Application 2020-4.
Yep.
And the petition of the Planning and Zoning Commission to amend the North Branford zoning map, changing the zoning of the northernmost portion of the parcel located at 1 Forest Road from residential R80 zone to industrial I-1 zone.
Mm-hmm.
And a description of the meets and bounds of the parcel to become I-1 zone is attached. And then the change would be effective June 19th, 2020.
What does meets and bounds mean? Is that where we
Yeah, I just want to.
the triangle versus the other two parcels?
Yeah.
It would be a description of the parcel so that it's clear on the land records the portion that is being changed.
And it's just that sliver of that triangular piece.
Correct. And by stating the parcel that's located and known as 1 Forest Road, that is the
Oh, right. Okay.
parcel, because
Yeah, the rest of it's not.
the rest of it is already zoned I-1. So this would just be the northernmost portion of that parcel.
Right.
So let me ask you a question, Carrie, just for procedural. You just read that, you read the motion, correct?
Yeah.
Complete, you read the complete motion?
Yeah.
Okay, so what I'm gonna recommend is either Trish or Bill, one of you make a motion to approve because Carrie's already stated it.
Mm-hmm.
Second one, just, and the other person would just second it. Make sense?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I make a motion to approve based on what Carrie just said.
Yep.
Can I say that, or do you want me to kind of go through it?
But just if you can just put the application number in there too.
Yep, I make a motion to approve application 2020-4, map amendment to amend the North Branford zoning map to change the northernmost parcel at 1 Forest Road, with the description of the land being rezoned in the meets and bounds from R80 zone to I-1 zone.
Perfect.
With the effective date?
With the
June
effective date.
19th.
Is that the effective date?
June 19th.
Yes. The effective date of June 19th.
Thank you.
And
Bill,
yep.
was there anything else, Carrie?
After everyone votes, can I just make the suggestion that you go through a similar process to make a motion to deny the zone change for the other two parcels, just so
point.
there's no
Yep.
question?
Okay.
Good point. So I approve the motion that Trish just. I approve the motion Trish just made.
Or you second? Okay.
I second. I second the motion.
Perfect.
Trish made.
Okay. So for the three of us set for this, for discussion, and members Mace, Galdenzi, and Dulac. So is there any other discussion?
No.
I mean, I think this makes the most sense.
Yep.
Continuation, it pulls the property in to where it should be, and also provides some protections to the community for the other portion that they want to basically put in topsoil and storage for future use in the quarry. Bill, is there anything you'd like to add?
Nope, I do not. That's
okay.
Well said. Yep.
So, Trish, we have to state a reason. State if you approve or not, and your reason for approving.
Trisha says yes to the approval to bring that parcel into conformity and it's protecting the public interest.
Yeah, I approve it. It obviously brings that last piece of the sliver and the boundary line, the existing boundary line, into the consistent zoning of I-1. And obviously the other parcels will cover on a different kind of zoning.
Bill, you all set?
Yes.
Okay. I'm going to approve for the same reasons. I want to thank Tilcon. I especially want to thank members of the public for raising concerns and addressing and getting a better understanding of what this application was. I'd like to thank everybody, and that motion is approved 3-0. Carrie, now you mentioned that you would like to deny the other two parcels. So can you read a potential motion?
So I would say, I would look at the agenda.
Are those parcels at the same address?
No.
No.
Oh, they're a different address. Okay.
They are known as Totucket Road. Let me just make sure I have it. They are known as Forest Road Rear and Totucket Mountain.
Oh, okay. It's on the agenda. Want me to take a shot at it, Care?
Yeah.
Jump in if you need to save me. Okay, so I make a motion to deny the application 2020-4 map amendment to rezone two parcels, one located at Forest Road Rear, the other located at Totucket Mountain, from R80 zone to I1 zone. Sound good?
I second that motion.
Okay. Curious, that's part of the public hearing, or is that just yeah, so you just have to state a reason for denial. Or first, any discuss, well, yeah, just state a reason. Trish, first.
I agree to deny, again, to really protect the public concern and interest about that mining in those zones.
Bill?
Yeah, I approve the denial because it requires the planning and zoning to see any changes. The applicant has said that they don't intend on mining, but it gives us some assurance and gives us some way to have a check and balance to make sure that that doesn't occur.
Great point.
And I vote yes for this motion for the same reason. So the motion is approved. It's denied 3-0. A lot of double negatives in there.
Yep.
Be
careful.
Thank you, folks, for your patience.
Thank you. No, thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Jim. Thanks, Chris. Appreciate it.
And I thank all the people who joined for that public hearing. We are going on to our next public hearing, which is a continuation. It's a continuation from our previous meeting. It's application 2020-3. So Carrie, do you have any updates on that before we get started?
I'm waiting for comments from East Shore District Health. Obviously, they've been very busy with reopening of restaurants and salons, so I do not have comments from them, and I would recommend continuing this until we do have comments from them. I also am waiting for comments from the Regional Council of Governments as well.
Okay. So I just want to make sure, since it is a public hearing, I'm just going to ask if anybody on the Zoom session or on the phone would like to comment on this application. If you do, please send a chat to Carrie. Do you have one? Anybody yet, Carrie?
No.
Okay. Well, if somebody comes in a second lane, we'll go back. So we're going to continue this application 2020-3 to our next meeting, which is June
18th.
18th. Okay. All right. Next order of business is our request for bond reduction for Schwab subdivision.
So you'll recall at our last meeting.
So this is the Red Barn property,
Yes.
right? Just for clarity for everyone.
That didn't help me. Where is it?
You don't know where the Red Barn was, okay.
So this is in
Near Old
Branford
Post
off
Road, yeah.
Middletown Avenue,
Okay.
Bridgewater Estates.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, yep.
So I'm just going to read an email from Kurt Weiss, the town engineer. So you'll recall at the last meeting, you had a favorable report to have the town council accept Farmington Drive. And so I have an email from Kurt Weiss. The North Branford Town Council has an item June 2nd, which was before the town council, to accept Farmington Drive. The town council did accept the road, then, so now it's back before planning and zoning to consider a request to reduce the subdivision performance bond to a 5% maintenance bond to be held for 1 year from date of acceptance. The existing outstanding performance bond is for less than the full value of the subdivision improvements, since it was originally posted once the majority of the subdivision improvements were already substantially completed. The 5% maintenance bond is based upon the estimated value of the road improvements, not including drainage, plus the estimated cost of the bridge. The required 5% maintenance bond is based upon 5% of this value, resulting in a net required maintenance bond of $53,045. It should be noted that the majority of work has been in place for a number of years, and the final course of pavement was placed last fall. So, you know, the town engineer is comfortable with this and is looking to reduce the bond that the town is holding, and it's just a 5% maintenance bond. So the motion would be to, if you agree, to accept the reduction of the maintenance bond to $53,045.
So I make, oh, go.
Well, does that, the 53,000, does that exist in perpetuity, like, to the town for maintaining the road? You know?
No, like
No, so that goes away eventually?
Yeah.
So they're just reducing it to 53, and then at some point it just goes to 0?
Correct.
And it just becomes a town road, and we have to fix the bridge.
Yeah.
I mean, that was all the concerns we had at the public hearing, and originally was that it's really costly bridge that they built, but then we have to maintain. So we get, okay, I just want to understand. So eventually we get 0, right? It goes down to 0.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Yep, and this would just be held for 1 year. So that if something happens with the road, with the freeze-thaw cycle,
gotcha,
that $53,000 could be called, if you will, and used towards making the necessary repairs prior to the town taking it on and doing maintenance.
Yeah. So if there's like faulty work or something, we wouldn't have to spend all the money the applicant would.
Right.
The owner would, but eventually it comes to us. Okay, thank you. I thought so.
Would somebody like to make anything else, Trish, Bill? If not, would you like to make a motion?
Yep. I make a motion to approve the bond reduction for Shantz Subdivision application 2012/13-13 to reduce the bond to $53,045.
Is there a second?
Yeah, I second.
Any discussion? Seeing none. Trish?
I vote yes to approve the reduction.
Bill?
I vote yes as well.
And I vote yes as well, so that bond reduction passes. Carrie, next one?
I do not have any follow-up information on this, so we don't have to address this for 440 Totucket Road. There was already a reduction last year, and there's outstanding work that needs to be done, so this will be continued to a later date.
Okay. All right, so we're on the town planners report.
So we have talked at the past 2 meetings about the language relating to outdoor seating. I've reached out to the town of Guilford, and that information, I believe, was sent to you in your packet. You know, I think this is kind of an ongoing work in process. It seems to me like our restaurants are faring well, in my opinion. I haven't heard negative comments regarding our current process for the temporary outdoor seating. I know there's been a lot of back and forth about whether to put in a text amendment, and I think that you all react well to text amendments when they're appropriate. At this point, I'm almost leaning more towards let's continue to use the temporary outdoor seating regulation to help the restaurants for now, and, you know, again, continue to kind of talk about this and look at it as time goes on, but to do a text amendment to adjust something that may be temporary, I'm not sure is the best move.
Yeah, I don't know if I articulated it well enough last time, but that was exactly my point. I don't know if you got that from what I was trying to say last time. I was trying to say we should like explore maybe extending this temporary thing, because it seems like it gives them even more flexibility. I think once we go to a text amendment, we're probably putting more controls in place than what we have existing now. So I like that approach as well. Understanding that, I understand, like
but we can't extend it. So once it goes back to full seating or indoor, I mean that temporary that's not permissible in our town. So as soon as the state says you can go back to full dining, that temporary goes away.
No, I understand. I think they said 90 because that made sense at the time, but it's going to be based on conditions, right?
Right.
I think that's what's going to guide it, and that's kind of what should guide it.
Yeah, my only concern is that if that goes away and there's nothing in place, that means somebody who wants to continue cannot. So they're going to have to be forced to take it down.
Yeah.
And then we would have to find that. So that's just my thought. I mean,
I think anytime, I don't know this because I don't think anyone knows this, but I think if that gets taken away, it's because conditions exist that you can probably resume like a phase 3 type situation. I mean, you have gating. State of Connecticut has gating, phase 1, 2, and 3, and 3 is kind of back to a normal. So right. I don't know if, I mean, obviously it's everyone's vested interest to keep businesses operating, and it's Lamont's best interest as well. So I understand. I just think I don't think anyone has the answers, but I just I can't imagine at 90 days, if the conditions are bad where you can't go indoor, they're going to say, okay, we're stopping this. You know, that would just shut businesses down.
No, they won't. No, Bill, it's not that the state will stop it. Other towns have regulations about outdoor seating that somebody can immediately go in when they know it's going to change. We do not have that. So if somebody puts up Jersey barriers and has an area, when that goes away, and we have to take all that down.
I know. I'm saying at the end of this 90 day, I don't think they're gonna. I don't think Lamont's gonna say
That's
Harry,
prohibited kitchen.
Harry, I'm saying I think conditions are going to drive when they actually relax this. I don't know. I mean, I don't think anyone knows.
No, Bill, no.
I totally understand what you're saying.
No,
I'm not opposed to text amendments. I just think I think we should work on them, but I think they'll be more restrictive than what probably is going to be allowed out there. But that's just an opinion.
But what I'm saying is that people are investing money. The reason why we told Hidden Kitchen that we would consider it instead of them writing it, they want to make it permanent. So the thing is that we do not have a regulation to allow permanent outdoor. So basically, if the governor says that you can go back to normal, whether it's in 90 days or 120 days, it doesn't matter. They will have to take that down. The investment they made to put that there, they have to take it down because we do not have a regulation. So just make sure everybody understands that.
Yeah. It sounds like we're back to the same conversation we had. Yeah, I understand. We got back to the same conversation of. I totally understand that, Harry. I'm just saying.
Okay.
There's two.
I just want to make sure because
there's two restaurants there. So when we talk about parking and we include the 1,000 square footage outside, then that's going to restrict it. And maybe they can't even do what they're doing now. Is what I'm saying. So I totally appreciate what they're trying to do, and it's.
That's fine. I just want to make sure that everybody out there, that the restaurants know that there's no permanent, that there's nothing permanent.
No, I understand that.
There's no regulation for outdoor seating. So I just want to make sure they all know that.
So, I totally.
I'm going to cut you two off because you did this last time. So let me chime in real quick.
No, that's fine. We can move on and talk about that.
No, I have a comment about this.
Make sure that the business owners know that if they do go outside, that it's temporary, that we do not have a regulation, nor do we allow that. So I just want to make
correct, and I just want to clarify that from observing and being part of the conversation. I think all of our thinking was always after the temporary is over to then have our reg kick in. Our intention was never to restrict the temporary. So I just wanted the public and the businesses to be clear. We were never going to restrict temporary. It was, we didn't state it, but Bill, you brought up a good point. It was, okay, after the temporary is over, let's have something in place to support the businesses to allow those businesses who want to continue outside so they can continue it. So the goal was never to restrict the temporary.
Yeah, no, I think we're kind of saying the same thing. Harry's saying, I'm saying more like if there's any, and Harry probably said it accurately, that there probably isn't any way to explore the temporary, but that was my only opinion last time. And this time is there any other way we can keep this flexibility that we have right now? Because once we go to a text amendment, I think we should go there because we need something eventually. But right now we have more flexibility. Once we go to a text amendment, it's less flexible. But Harry said it, maybe we don't as a town, and I don't know that. I was just saying, I think it's going to be driven by, the current conditions. So I think they gave 90 day. That doesn't, what I'm saying is, I don't know at the end of 90 day, if the current conditions aren't like where we think they're going to be or want them to be, I'm not sure we're going to say, okay, everything's over. I'm hoping they're going to say, okay, conditions aren't really good still, we're going to extend this. But I don't know that. I don't think anyone knows that.
Yeah, I think the purpose of this is if they give a 5-year extension, I think the purpose of this is whenever that extension's over, let's now have something in place to allow those people to continue whatever they're doing. However, if it's permanent, we have to have some parameters in place.
Right. Well, and trying to pull up, because I thought this was on the website, but it's not. Let me just see real quick. Hold on. Sorry, bear with me real quick. So the town of Guilford has, there's fireworks going on now. going off outside? All right, so they have, and it's specific to each district.
Mhm.
75 under Q, sorry.
So is this was pre-COVID, this is just their outdoor seating we're looking at?
Correct.
Just to be clear? Okay, thank you.
Sorry. Under Q, of course, all the way down. Okay. Outside dining and outside music. So this is, they talk, and I'll send this all to you. You guys see?
It was in our email.
Okay. So where outside dining is proposed accessory to a permitted restaurant use, and said outside dining is on a lot within 100 feet of any lot where residential use is located, inclusive of the applicant's lot. Special permit shall be required in accordance with Article X. So again, this is just something to think about if we want to require something above and beyond. We know that for every restaurant that requires a special use. How many new restaurants will be coming into town? We don't know. But we also need to think of how we want to deal with outside dining for existing restaurants, because I think that's where it's more likely to occur. And I'll look at Hartford as well. I'm sorry, I don't have that for this evening, to see what they have, because one thing that they talked about, and I don't know if they've implemented it yet or not, but they were saying if you have a temporary approval for outdoor seating as part of COVID or executive order, whatever, that you could then adopt it as permanent after you go through certain steps. Maybe it's having a public hearing, or it could be just through a site plan, but we may want to consider that as well.
I mean, I do like in Guilford's how it says the number of, because the big discussion is, equity. It's, do we want to put in parameters that cover everybody to somehow figure out equity? Maybe, maybe not. But in reading this, I do like the number of seats for outside dining may be limited by the commission in order to mitigate any adverse impact on adjoining uses. Do we discuss equity, on an individual case-by-case basis? Maybe that's the direction to go in, instead of, having such a debate about what is fair for across the town. I kind of like what Guilford did, because not everybody's going to possibly be rushing to do outside seating. But that was just my reaction to this.
This also talks about music. So there's a whole section on music as well. Do you want me, just to kind of move this forward so we don't keep going in circles, do you want me to draft something, some kind of language for the next meeting? And
Yes.
You can edit from there?
Well, I thought it sounds like everybody wants to hold up on it, Carrie, so why don't we wait and see? I mean, there's nothing to really draft at this time. So we can just table it, keep it on the agenda, and then we'll just come back to it, leave it on the planning report, and then we'll just go from there.
Okay.
All right?
Well, when's the 90 days? I don't want to table
I don't know if we want to table it.
Well, I swear, you just said you wanted to wait and see this play out as we go through. So maybe I'm missing something.
Yeah, I don't think I
know.
articulate myself well. Maybe I've been always saying that. I was always trying to see if there's. I think Carrie mentioned it here. She just said, in fact, that there may be some way to just the temporary things that are in place to make those be able to become somewhat permanent, but based on some things that we have to put in place. That's what I was always saying. I think we all agree we want the best for our businesses in town. We're all saying the same thing there. The only thing I was just trying to say is when we make a text amendment, I'm concerned for the businesses that we're going to be more restrictive, and is there some way in this crisis to allow them to continue with this kind of flexibility that they have for 90 days somehow a little bit longer, rather than get more restrictive after 90 days? Because I'm not really sure 90 days is just a hard stop, because maybe that it gets extended. That's all I was saying.
Right. No, I would, just my 2 cents, I would imagine that the governor's going to come out with something else at the end of the summer. I mean, I hope not. Hopefully we're through this, but I wouldn't be surprised if.
Yeah, that's my point. I think if we're still in a crisis, he's not going to say, well, 90 days is up, so bring in your outdoor seating, everything's over. I mean, that doesn't make sense for anyone, right? But that's going to be dictated by the virus, not by us. That's all I'm saying.
And ours will kick in when the crisis is over and somebody wants to do something permanent.
Yeah, and my concern for the business owners is that may just be more restrictive than is allowed now. That's all I'm saying.
But I think at that part, it's okay, because if everybody feels when the crisis is over and we're going back to normal day to day, more restrictive is going to be appropriate, because there are going to be issues with parking. So there are going to be certain things that, we do have to review if you want to make this permanent.
That's exactly it. Yep.
But at that point, that'll be appropriate, because
exactly,
especially with parking. But I agree.
Because
kicks in after.
Exactly, because now you're back inside and we're kind of back to some normalcy. So, we do want to explore maybe some additional outdoor seating for folks that wanted outdoor seating originally, but maybe the immediate need's not as great anymore, right? Because you have your inside capacity. That was my point.
And not maybe the word restrictive isn't so accurate, because at that point you're back to your, getting the business you usually get, because you have inside dining. But then we have to be fair to whoever you might share space with to make sure there's adequate parking. So it's not necessarily maybe restrictive versus, just making sure it's fair and meeting, our regs, so everybody has equal access. So no, I don't think we should table it. If we wanted to when's the 90 days up, if we want to delay it, but with how we are, I don't think we should table it. We're very thorough and we take our time, should take our time. So I don't think we should table it. I think something should be drafted and we start fleshing it out.
Yeah, so we have it in place futuristically, yeah.
Well, then, last week I was given some ideas. So if Carrie's going to draft something, you got to provide her with some kind of guidance. That's what I was trying to do last week, is start the process to do something, to write something, which then said, let's not do it. And so, if she wants to write something, we got to give her some direction. So,
up until I read Guilford's, my thinking, the only perspective I had was for us to come up with a number. But I do like my reaction, and now that I have a little bit more perspective, I do like Guilford's better, because maybe coming up with a number amongst us is just going to be, I don't know, is it going to be too difficult? That's the word that's coming to my mind. Whereas I like Guilford's, where it's like, okay, on a case-by-case basis, we'll look at the numbers and the square footage at that point. I know sometimes, depending on what we're coming up with in a text amendment, we like having numbers, but maybe in this case we don't, and we just look at it at the square footage as a place comes into us.
Yeah, so Trish, you got to remember, Guilford has a lot of outdoor seating because of the Guilford Green and different things like that. We're talking, most of our businesses, we're talking about parking lots.
Okay.
So if we can use Guilford's for somebody who has something that's not going to be in a parking lot, that has property around it where they can do some outside seating.
Okay, good point.
Think about and I can't remember all of them, but there's one on Route 1 that's like, you get hamburgers, hot dogs, some seafood and stuff like that. So that's kind of, I think that's where that was going, plus the green, something place in Guilford, whatever it is. So I think that's kind of more like, that's what Guilford has. I mean, we're talking about parking lots, and so like where the Hidden Kitchen was talking, they want to make it permanent. They want to put the ballards in there, which is the best thing. That's better than the Jersey barrier. Let's all face it. It's in the ground and stuff. It's better protected. But for them to do that, it costs them some money. So we got to really think of what Guilford's a good kind of like a starting point, but we have to look at like parking spaces, because most of the people we're talking about are businesses are in these multi-unit establishments, like with strip malls or whatever you want to call them.
Perspective.
So that's just my thought on that. That's my concern.
Just my thing. Isn't indoor supposed to start June 20th anyway?
It is, yeah. But
Right.
I mean, the whole reason this came up is because the Hidden Kitchen wants to do it permanently.
Yeah.
We don't have anything, and we don't have anything that allows it.
Right.
So.
Well, and I think a key thing is that we've talked about before is looking at parking.
Yeah.
So, and I don't know, I think generally when we look at our regs and do an overhaul at some point, we should look closely at parking to be more flexible with it. Because like we saw with Dollar General, like we didn't need as much parking as our regs require, but just in this situation, if they're taking away parking and having outdoor seating, I think it's okay for now because you're at 50% capacity. But if you now have 50% capacity outside and 50% capacity inside, how many cars, just as long as they can meet the parking requirements or have enough parking and meet the health department guidelines, I think it's okay, but my opinion.
Agreed. Whatever your potential capacity is, you need the parking to support it for inside and outside potential.
Right. Okay, so I'll draft something based on what Guilford has, but also look at another town or two that have plazas and parking, and we'll just kind of go from there.
Yeah, and last meeting, Harry said Harry, you had an up to square footage? Was it 600? No.
I'm sorry, Trish, what was that?
Last meeting, you had a number of like up to.
Oh, I just threw out a number as
Yeah.
1,000 square feet because I saw what Hidden Kitchens kind of was. As Carrie was talking about parking, my recommendation would be is any square footage that's part of a business is considered, it applies to parking. I mean, it's square footage. So if you take, the 100% of square footage inside plus the whatever it's going to be for outdoor seating, you have to have parking for it. So, but I mean, we can look at as Carrie mentioned, I think a number of times, is that we really should take a look, and Carrie, correct me if I'm wrong, we should really look at our parking formula, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, but those are a couple things. 1,000 square feet, I think this at least start the conversation out.
Agreed, yeah.
Okay.
Or even Durham, because Durham's smaller.
Yeah.
They don't really have.
Hey, well, Carrie, you want to take a stab at something?
Yep.
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah.
Yep, perfect.
Okay.
Yeah, agreed.
Application receipt and scheduling?
Yep, for our next meeting, we'll just have the continuation of the text amendment. I don't have any other applications at this time,
Okay.
but we might have it wouldn't be on the June 18th meeting, but maybe the special use application for Tilcon may be coming in July, but that's
Okay.
have to be later on.
Well, let me ask you a question. What is the requirements to do that? Because I thought is there a way to expedite it? Not expedite it, but because of what's going on, or we still have to publish it in the same manner, correct?
Right.
Okay.
The timelines don't go away. It's how you notify that they've provided exemptions, but if they can, then they should, so if they can do the mailings, especially now that things are opening up.
Right. All right. Okay, so anything else?
That's everything.
No.
All right, well,
Can I ask for just quick feedback? How do you think this format worked?
I liked it.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it was better.
And I like the way the public can, at least they can be there. You mute them, and then if they want to speak, they can come chat.
Come on, Ashley.
Listen, we got to work with what we got for the pandemic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was going to say, we all know Carrie is up and up, so she's doing the best she can.
Yeah.
I think she's doing great.
Trying. I think this works better personally than having the Facebook Live.
Agreed.
Yeah, that's
people need to speak, and that just was driving me nuts. We could get Facebook Zoom or Facebook. Oh God, now I'm jinxing myself. Zoom webinar, but other towns use it for public meetings. I think it would probably just make things easier for me. Just management wise of like the participants maybe a little bit. And I think just how people log in is different. It's different for commissioners than for the public.
Oh, interesting.
And everyone's muted like coming in.
Yep.
Oh yeah, like we have
This
a little
is
bit.
fine. I mean, we had the max that we had tonight was 25. So that wasn't horrible.
There's a maximum on this?
100. Yep.
Okay. All right.
On the subscription that we have.
All right. So
And we were only at 25.
Zoom webinar is similar where it's monthly?
Yes.
I mean, you could always obviously try both and then we make a decision after we see which one is.
Carrie, let me ask you, Carrie, I know we'll never hit 100, but let me ask you, is it 100 on total between video and on the phone, or 100 just on video and then unlimited on the phone?
I believe it's 100 participants, so phone or total. Yep.
All right. All right, good to know. Anything else? So, Trish, since you are nowhere close to an elder statesman, and I can't make a motion, the next older statesman, and I use that word statesman loosely, is Mr. Galdenzi. Either that or we stay here all night.
Well, technically, remember, we could all just log out, and there it is.
Yeah.
No, you cannot do that.
Well, being the elder of the group, except for Harry, I will make a motion to adjourn.
I second that.
You sure you don't want any discussion? Sure?
Oh, God, no.
Really?
I'm still waiting for
All right,
you.
listen, everybody, thanks a lot.
Yeah, thank you, everyone.
You need to stay safe.
Stay safe and healthy.
Bye.
All right.
Good seeing everyone. Take care. See you, Ashley.